You saw certain directors in the 60s, I mean, Sergio Leone and his widescreen films, decided to take this wide canvas and do something interesting. He's using the entire frame and the very edges of the frame.
What I tried to do point blank was to make these very cold compositions. I wanted to express the world of this character played by Lee Marvin, cold, emotionally arid. I always had the characters working through the frame, and lots of the action taking place on the edge of the frame, which makes the audience feel edgy. I tried throughout that thing to create tension through composition, and within this was this explosive, potentially very violent character.
Well, a thriller that's in a very claustrophobic situation like this, in just a small room, actually needs a bigger frame for it to feel like it's really a movie. If you restrict what the audience can see, then pretty soon they're going to get claustrophobic about the events that are on the screen as well. It's also great, I mean, you can put a person on one side of the frame, and if they're under threat, the threat can come from a whole, 40 feet away on the big screen.
I've used anamorphic only twice in my life, Flesh and Blood and Basic Instinct. And in fact, I've been not a big friend of anamorphic at all. Shooter? Yeah. I have been convinced only twice by my DP Jan de Bond, who is one of the top guys that can use it. And when we started Basic Instinct, I was immediately thinking about a narrow, at least much narrower format, But for me it was an intimate drama. Then Jan was highly opposed to that, and he felt that the story should be made broader, wider. He felt that it would be too restricted. And ultimately, I must say, he was completely right. When I was shooting it, I started to realize that in a lot of cases, I was really helped by the format. Especially when in scenes where you wouldn't even expect it, which was in the police precinct. We had always 6, 7 actors there. And now I could place them all in frame.
Would you tell us the nature of your relationship with Mr. Boz?
I had sex with him for about 1.5 years. I liked having sex with him. He wasn't afraid of experimenting. I like men like that. Men who give me pleasure. He gave me a lot of pleasure.
It's a little tricky in how you handle dialogue when two people are talking across from each other and you're cutting from one side to the other side. If you're shooting in Academy or 1:3:3:1, you'd be able to pop from close up to close up. You can't really do that in anamorphic because there's so much space, and suddenly you'd feel, for example, if there's an argument and there's a lot of energy in the argument, and you suddenly cut to a close up and his head is framed with all the space around it, you would just feel the force of the argument dissipate, the drama dissipate. So you have to do it in a different way. And in Manhunter, that's something I try to do in the dialogue between Graham and Dr. Lecter.
Did you get my card?
I got it, thank you.
And how is Officer Stewart? The one who was first to see my basement.
Stewart's fine.
Emotional problems out here. Do you have any problems, Will?
No.
And there's a rhythmic progression from having the two heads into actual close-ups. You go back and forth into over the shoulders, and then that stops being over the shoulders and starts to become singles. And then the space of the frame occupied by one head is replaced exactly and very precisely by the other head, so that it progresses into a more and more direct contact between these two men.
That's interesting.
No, it's not. You thought of it before.
I considered it.
You came here to look at me, to get the old scent back again, didn't you?
I want your opinion.
I don't have one right now.
Well, when you have one, I'd like to hear it.
Can I keep this?
I haven't decided yet.
I'll study them. When you get more files, I'd like to see them too. You can call me when I have to call my lawyer. They bring me a telephone. Would you like to leave me your home phone number?
No.
While they're doing that, I need the next group coming. In Mohicans, there never really was any thought other than shooting it in anamorphic. The film goes up, generally. There's a general visual progression as part of the plan that I had for the picture, that you start very much inside the forest, meaning underneath the canopy constructed by the tops of the trees. By the end of the movie, we're on top of the trees, we're on top of the forest for very obvious reasons of seeing vast landscapes for the first time. You know, anamorphic is great for that.
Great Spirit and the maker of all life. A warrior goes to you swift and straight as an arrow shot into the sun. Welcome him and let him take his place at the council fire of my people. He is Uncas, my son. Tell them to be patient and ask death for speed, for they are all there but one. I, Tingitchka, last of the Mohicans.